I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her. If you haven't already, we both found out about each other from different people around the same time many years ago. And we were both excited and slightly creeped out, I think, by how similar we were. I will not read her like official bio because I don't need to in order to introduce her, but I really liked this first line in your new book where it says, Val Woerner's mission has been to help women live intentional lives that are an outflow of a fruitful, focused prayer life. That is so good. I like that little snippet. Val has written a number of books like Grumpy Mom Takes a Holiday. She's written Springboard Prayers. The Finishing School was the first book of yours that I read and how I was introduced to you. She just had this amazing book come out, Pray Confidently and Consistently. She is so good about making prayer practical. And she is the owner of Val Paper. So they design and sell all sorts of amazing prayer tools. She lives in Louisiana with her husband, Tyler, and her two girls, Vivi and Vanna, who are 5 and 8. And you never include this in your bio, but I feel like you should, that Joanna Gaines purchased some of your prayer journals for party favors for her kid, right? Am I getting that right?
You are getting that right, but we didn't tell anybody because we don't know if we can tell people. Like, no, you're fine. I mean, like, but no, I mean, we would advertise that pretty heavily. We know they protect the image a lot, so we don't want to say anything. But yes, I love that you mentioned that because I forgot about that. I thought you were going to mention our podcast, which I have not added to my bio yet, but we have a podcast, Prayer in a Noisy World.
So your company uses this tagline of where prayer meets practical, which I love. So give us some tips to get practical with prayer. I mean, I know you just wrote this book, which is amazing and has practical things, but like prayer, and you talked about this right in the beginning. I was like, yes, thank you for addressing, like, prayer is so nebulous. Like, it's so vague. You were saying I can measure so many things, even in our walk with God, but not prayer. Like you said, I know when I've read a few chapters of the Bible, I know how much I tithe. You better believe I know if I skipped at a meal and fasted instead. But like, prayer can just feel like it's so easy to get distracted or feel like we don't have the time or not feel motivated. So help us make prayer more practical since you're so good at this.
Yes. So yeah, it is vague, and we can think that we can sit down and start prayer time and be like, okay, I don't even know if I would call that praying because I really just drifted off to my to-do list. It's just so easy to do. So a few things. I mean, our number one thing is what I created was the journal of just writing down your prayers. Write down what you want to be praying for at the beginning of the month and organize it so that you can just pick it up if you have a few minutes and pray. Because just imagine the time, I can say this with a group like Diana's, but like, imagine the time that you probably waste if you think I sit down to pray for 10 minutes every day, which is a feat in itself. If you sit down to pray every day for 10 minutes for like a month, if you spend 5 of that just going like, okay, what do I want to pray for, or distracted, just think of what could happen if you knew what you wanted to pray for when you sat down and you could jump right into it. So writing those things down.
Because prayer is so powerful.
Yeah. If you think about it adding up like that, you're just like, whoa, like I want that. But that would just be the first tip of just writing it down somewhere intentionally once a month and going off of that list for your prayer requests. Like your prayer life is going to be bigger than your prayer requests, but that's just a good way to start. And then I would say pairing prayer with something that you already do consistently. If you're in this group, I have to assume that you have some good habits that you have established. So if you know every time I go to my coffee maker every single day, if you put your journal out right there or put your Bible out right there, and you know, like if it takes, I don't make coffee, so I have no idea how coffee machines actually work.
Me neither.
For me, my little teapot, like it takes a little while to warm up. So if I just put my journal out there and I know I'm going to do that every single day, that is a way to start praying without having to create this brand new habit. You are just using a habit that is already established and tagging it onto that. Yes. So those are the 2 biggest practical tips.
Yes. Have you read Tiny Habits yet? I know I've told you that you should read it.
And you know what? I have it on my shelf.
Tiny Habits talks about that. I mean, some of the concepts overlap with Atomic Habits and other books about habits, obviously, because some of those principles are universal. But that's one of the big things he talks about is he calls them tiny habits recipes. So after I blank, I will blank. And then he actually encourages you to celebrate that in some way also to cement it in. So you can read the book. But I think that's such a practical way to cement prayer and think about all the things you already do on a consistent basis. And he even says, what are all the things that you are regularly doing throughout your day? And then look at, okay, how could I insert prayer habits into those things? For me, when I'm standing in the kitchen filling up my Brita pitcher, that somehow has become a trigger for me. Like, okay, I'm just standing here waiting for this pitcher to fill. So I'm just going to pray. And
that's all. Yeah.
So that's like I know that you are really good about using all those little things too. Or like when you're doing certain things in your house, okay, when you're making the bed, like pray for your marriage or pray for your kids as you're making their bed or whatever, or teach them how to make their own bed.
Yes. Yeah. We do have that worksheet for house prayers, and it's literally just, it's like creative things to be praying as you're cleaning your house. And so if you are just feeling like all I do is spend time cleaning my house, turn that into time that you would spend praying. And letting your environment be a trigger means that you're not getting it. It helps you to not just get bored praying the same things. You're using your environment and what you're thinking about to go to prayer. So it's like those things aren't a distraction to you. They're actually pointing you to what you want to be doing. So
yes. Yeah. I love that. And writing them down too. You will tell people like, you don't need my journal to pray, obviously. But if it is something that fits in your budget, I think it's just so much easier to have tools that are pre-made. You don't have to think about it. It takes the guesswork out of it. Kind of like Powersheets, goal planner, which we both use and love. Like you could set goals with a journal, a blank notebook, but it just makes it so much more easy and effective and like time effective to just have something, have a tool already ready.
It's just so much like if I had to think, oh, I've got and this is different for everybody. Like if you're a bullet journaler, you can make your own. Like you could do whatever. But like I would love to be a bullet journaler, but the fact is I'll get really excited about something, and then the next time that month comes, I'm not going to do it, and then I'm going to get behind, and then so it's one of those little like tiny hacks. I feel like I will always look for the finished product so that I could just, and Powersheets probably taught me that, and the prayer journal now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Okay. So obviously your book covers a ton of other topics on prayer. So what else does it cover that's so important? And what would you say makes prayer so important, especially for this audience of women, Christian women who are go-getters, driven, busy?
Yes. So we have a tendency to, or I'll just speak for myself and just assume that you guys will hopefully relate, that it's very easy to run ahead of God. We're just ambitious. We know what we want to do, and we have ideas, we have plans. And if we are not submitting that under God's authority, it's going to look very ugly and very messy, and it's not going to be what God is calling us to. So it's weird that we could twist these things that are really strong qualities in us, but we could twist them into something so negative if we aren't letting the Lord lead us. Prayer looks a lot like asking God on a constant basis where he is leading us and holding what we want to do very loosely. In the book, we talk a lot about the weights that are holding us back, because there are so many things in our prayer lives. I've talked to people for 8 years now and had thousands of conversations of just what the struggles are for prayer. We basically have like 15 that we've written about that are very common because they keep showing up. We just have to know, first of all, that we can pray consistently and confidently. We can change our prayer life. And I feel weird telling you guys this because I feel like y'all are motivated, you can transform your life, but maybe prayer is the thing that you feel like, okay, I can lose weight, I can become successful in business, but I can't do this because it just feels like you've already experienced so much defeat in it. But God has made a way for us to experience that. He wouldn't tell us to pray if he knew that we just absolutely would never be able to experience that. Knowing the ways that we are holding ourselves back in prayer is just super big. And then you just take that practical aspect of it and go for it. And I don't know, I feel weird talking to you guys. I feel like y'all are you guys get it already. So I feel like I'm preaching to the choir with things.
No, but this is your area of expertise. And I think it's so valuable to like, this isn't the first book that's been written on prayer, obviously. And I know you've read like most of those great books on prayer and like reference some of them in your book. So it's not like it's the first book that's been written on prayer, but I always find it so helpful when there's an area I want to grow in to find someone who is similarly wired to me or kind of at a similar place in life and learn from them. I think that's why I connected so much and resonated so much with Dawn, the minimal mom on YouTube, who I like talk about all the time, because all the other minimalists that I had followed before were like single guys, or Marie Kondo is like this Japanese woman, you know, who like at the time when she wrote the book didn't have kids. And so I feel like there's something really helpful about reading a resource from someone who is like, this is my area. I know a lot about this. I've struggled with this. I've read all the things. I've consumed the content. Let me distill it down for you and let me explain it to you in a way that's going to make sense for who you are and the walk that you're in. So not like this book is necessarily targeted exactly at busy moms who are goal-oriented or something, but that's who you are. So I'm going to get more practical advice from this than I would a book written probably by, you know, a single dude 400 years ago, although there's certainly value in that too. So
yeah, it's just more accessible. It's more, it's like, yes, we literally said when we wrote the book that, you know, you have to say who you're writing for, your audience and everything. And we basically just said like people who just aren't going to pick up the books by the men from 400 years ago or whatever.
Yes.
But they want to go deep, but they're just not going to pick that up. And so my hope is that it's just super accessible. It's super practical. And I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to say it's too practical. That's not going to be you guys.
Some of these like faith related things so hard. And it's good to read the stuff that's more like philosophical or read the Bible and see what Jesus has to say about prayer and learn from that. But then I also want to hear from people who are living now, who are living a life somewhat similar to mine and be like, okay, but when do you actually fit this in? Or like, how do you not get distracted by your phone? And like this page that you had in here of bullet points of ideas and things that people over the years have done, their tools over the years of prayer. When I read the one about when Jill Briscoe would sit in her kid's playpen, they knew it was mom's time in prayer. I was just like, yes, thank you. Like those are the very practical things I want to know. I want to know exactly when people prayed, how did they do it? How did you do it with kids around? That's what I need. Like, tell me the very practical ideas. I want to know how other people are doing this.
Well, and what's funny is that page was so hard to come up with because you can't find stuff like that. Like you can't find throughout history. Like it's, I mean, if you go look at a blog post today, you can see it like people today, but they did not share, you know, like in biographies, you'd get pieces of that. And that's what it is. It's like pieces from biographies that they've written that give you, but nobody was sharing tips of like, here's how to practically pray with God, you know? So yeah.
Well, anyone who's watching this video, if you have any little ideas or like, here's when I pray, or here's how I pray, put it below and we can give each other ideas. Like my weird thing, like when I'm filling up my Brita pitcher, you probably have a million little hacks like that. What are some of your favorite or most unique?
Well, not most unique, but like I'll tell you all a few. I put my prayer journal like in my car just as I'm driving. That was one I've done a lot in the past, not as much lately, but if I'm doing my hair and makeup, I sit in front of this mirror that we have in our room and I just have my journal out. And I pray a lot in the bath for some reason. I have like the little spigots that like you could just set your journal on. So that would be a big time that I would pray. And another weird one that I'll share, but whenever I go to the coffee shop to work, for some reason, every time I would go to the bathroom, that's when I would think to pray. Yeah. And I think it's because I would work so much. I would be like typing and it would be like this second for my brain to just like, and I started praying. It's weird because now every time I walk in that bathroom, I just start praying.
Yes.
And, you know, everybody goes to the bathroom multiple times a day.
Exactly. Yes.
Pray, you know, that'd be something.
Yes. That's one of the things he talks about in Tiny Habits. He's like, everyone goes to the bathroom. So what habit can you piggyback off of that? The author of the book says he does 2 push-ups every time he goes to the bathroom. But yeah, I mean, we all go to the bathroom, so that's a great one. Let's pivot and talk a little bit about goals, because we both love goals and we both use Laura Casey's Powersheets, which, side note, how pumped were you about the neutral cover options this year?
I meant to text you about it, but no, I honestly, I really like the green and the teal color too.
Oh.
I know.
This is shocking to me. Like, look at the background of Val's house. It looks like my house. Everything is like neutral.
Yes, I know. Well, I still went with the neutral, but the teal color, I was like, oh, that's really pretty.
So anyway, so if you're not familiar with it, this is Powersheets. This is a goal setting tool that we both use and love and highly recommend. And I have a video that I just did all about Powersheets. So we'll link to that below if you're like, tell me more about this. But Tom, I want to hear how your 2021 goals are going. Your word of the year was rebuild. So I'd love to hear just kind of like how they're going.
It's going well. Like, I set all the goals in December for the new year. And then I had a lot of health stuff start literally 2 weeks into the year. And that has been a big focus this year and a little consuming. But I feel like God has been faithful to do a lot. And it's interesting, my word for the year, rebuild. I feel like a lot of that was my physical body. I've lost 20 pounds having to go on a strict diet, take pills 5 times a day for 12 weeks. One thing that I have made a point to share as I share those goals now, like the quarterly thing, is to share the answered prayers in there, because a lot of the things that happen are actually answered prayers. So,
right.
Like, one just off the top is I got to record the audiobook for my book, but that was obviously one of my monthly Powersheet goals. And we were going to go to Nashville to do it. And then I had this surgery come up that I had to have. And I was still going to try to make it to Nashville 2 weeks after my surgery, but I'm so glad I asked them. I was like, can we try to find somebody in Lafayette? And they found a place that I had totally forgotten about. It's like a famous studio 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, that's
and record there. And every night, whenever I got back, it was 3 days of like 6 hours sessions. Every day, to be able to go home to my bed and to be able to rest and like just be with my family, it was such a blessing. But I don't know why I shared that, but that's just one that's like a goal that I had, but like just to see how God worked it. Because, you know, when you make goals at the beginning of the month, even like, you know, having there go to Nashville, like that fell through, but God did something so much better with that. And yeah,
and you still got the same end result that you were after, which was getting this book recorded, and you actually did it in a way that worked out better for you. So, and your family and your health. And so I love that, because, you know, I'm all about what is the end result? What is the most effective way to get there? And sometimes that's going to change. And my Powersheets goals definitely changed partway through the year because we bought a house, and I didn't think that we would I thought it would take us till next year to buy a house. So definitely things change, but I like how they can kind of adapt over time. And I am not afraid at all with my Powersheets to just like, even partway through the month, like cross stuff out or change it or whatever, you know. I think people think that, like, I hear people tell me all the time, oh, I don't think I should buy Powersheets again because I didn't fill them out every month last year, or I didn't do them perfectly, or I don't always finish all my goals. I'm like, yeah, neither do I. Like, I don't think anyone is using Powersheets super perfectly. Probably same with your prayer journals. Like, once in a while, you're going to skip a month, or you're going to not fill out a section or something, but it still is so powerful, even if you're using it in kind of a messy, imperfect way.
Well, and we always tell people, like, if your prayer life is changing at all, like, don't get hung up on like 1 month it didn't, you know, because you get to experience that growth, whether it was every single month or, you know, just, I don't know, over time. But yes, I definitely agree. And you helped me a lot, obviously. But so I mean, I guess everybody knows I work with you as a coach.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention that. Val is also a coaching client of mine. Yeah.
But like, we had a ton of big goals in September. Like, we were going to launch a podcast, launch a collection, prepare to release the book, share pre-orders, and I was going to be gone for a week at the beach. And even talking it through, you know, you just feel a little crazy, because it's like we talked about, we're like, well, this is literally the goals that you could have in 1 year, not a month. talking it out and going over what was most important and kind of that, like, how do you scale this back to the bare minimum? We were able to do everything that we needed to do, except the website. Also planned my daughter's 8th birthday party, which was October 2nd. So September was crazy, but we got it. We did it. But yeah, I was grateful for what we were able to make happen.
Yeah. Are you getting excited about 2022 goals yet? Are you starting to think about 2022 goals yet? Is there anything that you're kind of excited about, or you feel like God's kind of pressing on your heart, or are you mostly just focused on finishing this year?
So I probably a little bit of mix of both. So I waited to do my Q4 goals, like the refresh, until after the book came out, because it was 2 weeks into that. I didn't want to. So I am still excited about the rest of this year and kind of like all that I'm going to do that's not work related. Like I read Take Back Your Family from Jefferson Bethke. And I am somebody who has always been super excited about work, and I love my family and put energy into that. But I feel like this renewed passion for putting all of that energy that I normally put into work into them. And like what to just be really intentional. And I'm super excited about just being a mom, like a mom that brings like all of this ambitious energy to that. So
yes.
When organizing, we've talked about that. Like after I have really busy seasons, I like to just declutter and organize. So that's what I have planned this year. But next year, I think like we're still super excited about, like, I'm probably not going to write another big book like this for a while. And we're going to share more about this book for a long time. But like next year, our focus is going to be on getting this book into churches and small groups and things like that, so that it can have an impact for the whole church. So not sure what that looks like, because I haven't had time to like actually devote to thinking about that. But that's what we're excited about for next year.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. I can't wait to see everything. And I love how, like, I think you touch on something interesting, which is like, as a mom who works, you are an ambitious, intentional, goal-oriented, systems-oriented kind of person, period. Obviously, you apply that to work, but then you can also bring that into your family as well. And I think you do a really great job of, not that I'm like sharing anything overly confidential from our sessions, but like, I feel like you do a great job of kind of going in waves and seasons of like the nature of your business and the nature of a lot of people's lives who are listening to this, even if they don't have a business. The nature of your business definitely has those periods that are more intense and a little more all in, where you do put a little bit more time into work, and that's a little bit more of a focus. But then you're really good at making sure that you come down from that and have the seasons where you allow some of your creativity and your ambition and all that to be fueled into your family life and doing fun things at home, and, you know, setting goals related to decluttering and organizing and doing fun things with the girls and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's part of what keeps you healthy, keeps your family healthy, and keeps you and your family able to withstand some of those times that just inevitably are a little more intense.
Yeah. Well, and I used to not be good at that, but we started working together whenever I was writing my first book. I think it was either right before or right around the time. I remember setting the goal, and I'm sure it came out in our conversations, of going for a month somewhere after I wrote the book, because my husband has his own business too. So we're able to like work anywhere. So we're like, what if we go somewhere for a month to where we could just kind of like take a break? Because I have been tired of saying in the past, like, oh, this season will be different, or like, it'll be better. Like, I'll slow down, I promise. Like, I have been that person for a really long time, and I still struggle with that to some extent. But I think it's almost like once you realize, like, this is a struggle for me, so I have to do something differently. I think that season helped. We were able to do that twice. I think that it created this good rhythm of just knowing, okay, this is going to be a different season. And I know for us, my husband, he owns his own business, but he's also been volunteering as the youth pastor of our church for the last couple months. And this was a really new thing for us, because whenever I've gone through all those busy seasons, he's been able to absorb a lot of the like home life. And he wasn't able to do that as much. He still was as much as he could. But now I'm excited to go into this new season where we get to like just fully support him. I get to take the back seat for a while. I feel like I'm always the one who's kind of in the spotlight with whose work is like takes priority, honestly. Yeah. But I'm excited to be super supportive to what he's doing and not have our stuff as much of a priority, you know? So
yes.
That's another goal for the season.
What are some of the like habits or rhythms? And I mean, obviously they change for you guys over time depending on where you're at, but like what are some of the habits or rhythms that are really life-giving to you guys these days?
Going for walks in the evening is something that we're trying to do more of, like after dinner. Because the girls go to bed, they're so hyper, they're loud, they can't get to sleep. And it feels so rushed. It's like a rushed dinner, get to bed. And we're like, okay, if we could just cook a little bit earlier, we can go for a walk, enjoy this weather. Like we have very hot summers and the weather is finally cooling off right now. And we want to enjoy it. And I would say that's one. We also do something called hang time, which is something I learned from Amy McCready, I think is her name, but she has this parenting course.
Yes. Okay. Do you know that I've gone through that too?
No, I didn't.
Positive Parenting Solutions. I love that course.
Okay. Yes. So we haven't made it all the way through, but the time they talk about having like 10 or 15 minutes with each of your kids every day where they get to pick what you do. And we haven't been very consistent about this, and we are noticing attitudes and disobedience and complaining that happens more when they do not feel like we are giving them time. And 10 minutes per child doesn't sound like a lot, especially if you only have two like us, but it is, we notice such a big difference in it. Mm-hmm. So basically my husband plays with one for 10 minutes and I'm playing with the other. And then we literally set a timer so that it doesn't get out of like
this is our special time timer. It's like a little visual timer so you can like see on there. Yeah.
I'll do it. Well, I'm glad to know y'all do that too.
Yeah. We call it special time. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what she calls it, but I think
she calls it mind, body, and soul time.
Yes. So we don't use that because that's just too much. We'll just say hang time.
I love it.
So doing that, we'll be doing more of that. That'll be a good healthy rhythm. I mean, just honestly breathing, like staying on the yoga mat and breathing.
Yes.
Is, something that sounds so small, but we need to be breathing right. We don't breathe right. Mm-hmm. And we're both like, oh.
Stand up, sit up straighter so you can get all the oxygen in. Okay. So before we go, I know this is something we've talked about before, like, and you probably hear this all the time. And I do too. Like you and I share things that we're not good at and areas of weakness and improvement. But I think people still think that we are like superhuman in some way, or like we have it more together than other people. And in some ways, maybe we do. Like your faith life is very healthy and good. And, we both Sabbath and do things like that. But like, what are some of the things that you are not that good at, or you just purposely don't do, or like things you're dropping the ball on? Do you have anything you can share with us? Tell us how human you are, Val.
Let me just dig. It's going to take a second to try to think of something. No. Back doors at the back of our house that are literally growing moss out of them because they're just destroyed. We've been trying to change this for months. It's disgusting. Our house stuff takes a lot. Like we are lucky to be in a house that is not like, we would never be able to buy 100-year-old house because we would never be able to take care of it. We redid our yard and our fence, and my husband, I looked at my notes in my power sheet. We ripped out the fence in July and we just put it up. And I mean, we live in a neighborhood where there's HOA rules, and we're just grateful that they gave us some grace through a lot of that. But so there's that. My girls have 50th day of school, so they're allowed to dress in 50s costumes on Thursday. And the moms that I'm in a group with, we're sharing like DIY for poodle skirts. And I was just like, I'm literally going to be sending my daughter to school with a scarf around her neck and her uniform.
Yeah.
And it's, those feel like, oh, I'm going to feel so bad whenever she gets out of the car if she's not dressed like her. And it's like, no, like I'm not going to worry about that. That for me, for other people, that is like do it if it brings you joy, sparks joy. But that is one. I don't paint my nails. They're like disgusting. They're too long. They're, and then I had another one. Oh, we don't pay our bills very quickly. Like, we have money in the bank account, but things do not get paid on time, and they just pile up. And it is interesting that, like, Diana amazes me, but you could probably tell me things that you don't do. But like, people seem to be really impressed with, oh, I can't believe you wrote that many books, or you're able to do that. And I'm like, there are parts of my life that are very underwhelming and very like, oh, that's how you're able to do that. Like, I have a friend, she's always put together. She is always dressed to the T. Like, when we hang out, I'm just thinking, like, they have to think I'm just like, her makeup artist who doesn't get ready. Like, I just put all my attention on getting her ready. But, I don't know, it's different for everybody.
Yes. And I've learned as a coach, one of the perks, I think, of being a coach and hearing behind the scenes of everyone's lives is you realize that truly there is no one who is able to keep all the balls in the air. Yeah. Every single person I know is either intentionally dropping balls and saying, like, yeah, we're not going to get super into like every single thing at the kids' school for dress up days, or I'm not always going to look perfect and have my nails done or whatever. Like, people are either intentionally making those choices and being okay with it, or they're trying to do everything and you can't. So then they're kind of unintentionally dropping the balls. And I mean, I feel like even people who are hiring help for things like cleaning or whatever, still there is no one person who looks perfectly put together and is exercising all the time and is in the word and is running a business and is present for her kids and has a clean home and actually has sex with her husband more than once a month. Like, there's just not enough time. No one can actually do all those things. So yeah. So thanks for sharing some of those. I love hearing that stuff. And you purposely go big on some things and on the things that really matter to you, rather than trying to like spread yourself super thin. And then, I mean, there's no way that you would have been able to write this book if you felt like, I need to do every little tiny thing that everyone else is doing. Yeah. It wouldn't happen. This is the product of saying, here are things that I don't do, and I'm okay with that. So
yes. I appreciate you reminding me of that.
Well, I know you have to go. Thank you so much for hanging out and chatting. We could chat forever. I love you. And we'll put a million links to like all the things that Val mentioned below. I know you have a list on your blog of like other things that you don't do. So we'll put links to all of her stuff so you can follow her and find her and read her other goals and all that good stuff. And definitely, obviously, goes without saying, read her book and check out her prayer journals. And if you're a mom, this is also a really good book, which we didn't talk about because this isn't like your newest book, but so good. Very good, like mindset shift for Christian moms. So anything else you want to share before we go?
I mean, I'm assuming everybody knows to work with you, but like, I literally was telling my husband last night, I was just like, I don't know what I would do without our calls. I feel like every time it's time to like renew, I know it's like an easy decision because I know how valuable the time is, how I look back and see like the specific decisions that were made as a result of our time. And I just know like that would have not happened without that. So it's worth it. But I know sometimes it can be scary to invest in yourself like that, but it is like, it's an investment in your whole family and, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I did not ask her to share anything like that. But thank you. And I know you have to run, so I'll let you go. Bye.